right, so we're gonna run through a series of mobility tests for the upper body to see where any restrictions may lie and then what muscles those restrictions may be coming from. So to start, just sit cross-legged with your back against the wall as best as possible. For me, mine comes off the wall just a little bit. You're gonna grab a PVC pipe or like a broomstick, something straight. I want you to start shoulder width apart with those hands, keeping your ribs tucked so you're not rib flaring. Try to bring your hands, keeping your arms straight, up above your head without those ribs flaring or that low back coming off of the wall. Until you touch the wall. And we do a second rep just to see if anything happened on the first one that should have happened. So ribs down, abs tight without excessively rounding your back, just nice neutral spine. And down. So this is just kind of testing overhead mobility. And if we can't get to the wall, obviously a little bit of a problem, or if those hands need to come really wide out on the pipe to get to the wall, you have a little bit of restriction as well. So what are the potential restrictions might be from a tight lat? And an underhand grip will let us know if it's a little bit more of a lat focus restriction or not. So we're gonna go underhand grip here, same rib down position, not excessively flared, but I also don't want you rounding too much there. Arms straight, shoulders apart, come up over the head. You want to feel those hands turn out a lot, or you can't quite get to the wall. You might have a little bit of a restriction, just a little bit tight there, not quite as easy as it was overhand. Just going up, second rep. Down, perfect, okay? So that kind of gives us our overhead mobility assessment, at least with the pipe. Second one is going to be just a wall angel. This kind of assesses how much external rotation we have coming down how far. So we're doing like a shoulder press. How low can we maintain the hand position before we need to change our angle of press? So start with your hands. Want your hands against the wall, back of your arms against the wall, and your ribs tight again. Start up and try to keep everything against the wall as you slide it down. Come down as low as you can before they start to pop. Mine's right about there. So if I'm at this grip position on a shoulder press, I don't want to be coming much lower than this because then I would start to be here and I would probably need to change my angle to change my press position. So again, come down, keep it flat against the wall, pull, pull, pull. Once you get stuck right about there, okay? Fourth test is gonna be an internal rotation test. For some people with shoulder pain, they have a little bit of limited internal rotation. So start, goalpost position, 90-90. It's a little bit hard for me because my back pops me off the wall, but for most people, it should be really good against the wall. I want you to keep those elbows against the wall as you rotate your hands down, coming down as far as you can without those elbows popping off the wall. So for me, this one's actually pretty all right. Come on down. Might feel like a little bit of a click, pop, something in the shoulder if you go with an impingement. And done. Okay, so that's it for the seated assessment. So the next assessment is going to be thoracic rotation, which is basically that mid-spine's ability to move. So you're going to sit down in a cross-legged position. I want you to imagine that you're sitting on the middle of an X. So get yourself in a position which is not a super easy position for me to get into. You're sitting in the middle point of that X, and you have a line coming here, and a line coming here. You can take your PVC pipe, put it in that front rack position. Now it's one a nice tight midsection, so not overly flexed here, just a nice tension. You're gonna put that in a position, and you're gonna rotate to one side as far as you can go. Now, it's not so much how far you get going side to side. It's going to be, are there any major imbalances between the two sides? Let's come back, like I said, and rotate. And I definitely feel a little bit tighter going this way. So, even if you may feel like you get to the same position, if you feel a little bit tighter getting there, or feel like you're having to force into it, then that's probably a restriction you have and something that we need to work on. It's going to be for the pec major and the pec minor. So you're going to need a partner for this one. What Eileen's going to do is she's going to lie down, she's going to bend her knees, hands at her stomach. Now what I want her to do is just relax, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push her shoulders down to the ground, try to flatten them out. If we feel a little bit of a pull kind of in that upper pec region, we know that pec minor may be a little bit tight. To test the pec major, Eileen's going to put her hands behind her head and interlock her hands. We're going to start with those elbows up, and we're going to let them just fall out to the side And if we don't see those elbows hit the ground, we feel a little bit of tension, we have a little bit of restriction in the pec major. Okay, so now we're going to be testing lat mobility in a couple different positions of the shoulder. So if you were restricted at all going overhead, especially with the underhand grip, you could have a lat restriction. So to test that, what we're going to do is we're going to lie down. You're going to put one arm straight up. And what I want you to do is the first position, you're going to turn your thumb outwards. But keeping her ribs tight, and then you're just going to let her hand fall behind her head. And if we see that arm, let's let the hand turn out, or we see it bend, or we see it kick way out to the side, where there's maybe a little bit of a restriction. So you're gonna try to let it come all the way to the ground, let it rest. Okay, and I usually ask people, do they have a little bit of tension there? Now we're gonna come back up. Now, if she wasn't able to get all the way to the ground, or we were seeing some funky stuff going on at the shoulder or the wrist, I'm gonna have her turn her thumb this way, which is internally rotated, which is gonna create a little bit more slack and length in the lats. So I'm gonna have her fall back behind her head. And now you should be able to get there a little bit easier, especially if you're restricted in the lat. So Eileen passes both tests, all right, but she's been tight on either one, especially with the thumb pointed out. You would have to obviously do some sort of assessment for the lats. So the next test here is going to be for now muscular strength and stability of the mid trap and the low trap muscles, which is our big factors in shoulder stability. So Eileen's going to get down in a kneeling position on all fours. What we're going to do is we're going to test her mid-trap first. So she's going to make a fist and put her arm straight out to the side, left arm. Now what I want her to do is I want her to imagine trying to hold with these inner mid-back muscles right here. Almost like you're pulling the scapula in, because I'm going to put my hand out here, I'm going to push her down. Now we might see her shoulders start to rise up and do other types of things, which would be a compensation, which could be leading to shoulder pain and bad mechanics. So Eileen's going to hold her position, keep her ribs tight. I'm just going to press on her hand, and she's weak there, but hey, most people are. Okay, the next one's going to be the Y, which is going to work the low trap. So she's going to make a thumbs up position, make a Y with her arm. Now a lot of people immediately see you start to shrug the shoulders. You're going to drop the shoulders down here. Now she's trying to pull the scap kind of down and in to resist me here, okay? So we're going to push on her hand a little bit better. We'll see her compensate a little bit with the trap. So basically just resisting, the person just creating a little bit of pressure, trying not to overdo it, but definitely overcome them if they're weak. All right, final four tests are going to be done standing, so go and face me. We're going to do what I call a low L external rotation, so Eileen's going to make a fist, 90 degrees in the shoulders and the elbows. Okay, bring the elbows in just a little bit. Now she's going to push out against my hands and try to resist me. Good. So you don't want to like try to overdo it, but just enough pressure just to get a little bit of resistance back. And if it's easy, you'll feel it come in. You also want them compensating and cheating to fight through it. Next one's going to be a high L external rotation. Let's go and face this way. Okay, now I want your elbow up, goal post, just one. Okay, so now we test external rotation in a high, what I call high L position. So you put one hand on the front of the elbow, one hand on the back, and you're going to try to push the hand forward. She's going to try to resist me. You may see some things happen at the shoulder, like shoulder shrugging and whatnot. Okay, that's high L external rotation. So two different positions of external rotation. The last two are going to be, one's going to be called full can. So want to face me. You're going to go up to 90 degrees with those hands, thumbs pointed up at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so 45-degree angle, ribs down. I want you to hold it. No, this way. Now push down on their hands, and then you try to push up. So we're testing the supraspinatus there, which is kind of a rotator cuff muscle on the top of the shoulder. And then the last one's going to be for the serratus. So what he's going to do is turn this way. She's going to put her arm up. It's a little more complicated to test at home. Try it if you can. Basically, her serratus muscle is going to kind of live right here. So you're going to find the bottom of their shoulder blade. This way just a little bit. You're going to find it. And what you're going to do is she's going to try to keep her shoulder down. You're going to push down against her hand. And I want to see if this muscle is engaging, if the scapula is winging out to the side. Basically, the serratus controls the shoulder blade on the rib cage. So push down. So we're trying to shrug. Yeah, serratus a little bit weak. So those are the four tests in the standing position, and that wraps up the rest of the shoulder mobility assessment.